Okay, people, so it's still February 14th, 2018. I am converting the video that I'm going to upload next. And I want to kind of put a thank you out to my landlords. So I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about being a YouTuber. Right? Because there's so many things that I want to talk about. I don't know how to talk about it, right? And then there's times when I don't want to talk about anything, but I know that being that I've been doing these videos for this long, it's kind of important that I keep with the dialogue, right? Not that anyone would worry about me if I just didn't talk about anything on YouTube anymore. They would just go on to the next YouTuber, right? In terms of being a YouTuber. Right? Because that's kind of like what I am. Right? Video blogger. It kind of becomes like an addiction. You know? You get to the point when you've been doing it for so long, you feel obligated to keep up with that dialogue, to keep up with the story, right? To you know, not drop the ball. So anyway, being a YouTuber, I think for me, it helps me to kind of like assess my priorities, right? Because I struggle with my priorities because I'm always being pulled somewhere else, right? If it wasn't the yard, I was in the yard for a long time, a couple times, well, a long time really, but in terms of when I had to be in the yard versus when I wanted to and was in the yard. It's different when there's a whip on your back with threats of fines and eviction and all that other stuff when you're in the yard versus putting in the pond because you want to put in the pond and make your yard look nice, right? Anyway, speaking of the yard, it's brought a lot of drama into my life. It brought a lot of hard work. It brought a lot of criticism as I went through that work. But that criticism never really kicked in. Well, it never kicked in really, people, until after John went missing. Until when Uncle John went missing, if you go back into my videos, that's when I started getting harassed by the city. Right? That's when MCFD was coming to my house on the regular for Andre because of the phone calls that were being made to try and have me lose my house. The housing situation, it's a little more involved because you're dealing with, ruthless realtors and ruthless property developers that want this property so that they can own the whole block, right? And then do as they please when it comes time to renovate the neighborhood, right? So it wasn't just the city on my back about the yard criticizing me, even though I had already been in the yard for years and years and years working on removing an infestation of morning glory, buttercup, and other weeds. But I also dealt with drainage problems and sand problems and that kind of problem, right? But of course people they didn't see that because that wasn't the agenda. The agenda was to get me out of the house. So this is where it brings me to my landlords, right? This is why I say this video is kind of like, well, it is. It's not kind of. I really do want to give a thank you publicly to my landlords, right? For being patient with me and my life circumstances that sometimes I just have absolutely no control of. I had no control of Uncle John going missing and being medically kidnapped. I have absolutely no control of a corrupt court system that wants to ignore that fact. I have no control of local realtors and developers in the neighborhood who work in partnership to push vulnerable people out on the streets just so that they can capitalize off of the wealth that they can build on property that they basically stole. Right? Because they're ruthless. They don't work under a code of ethics. So therefore, when you start doing that, it becomes theft, just like with Uncle John. What they did in the healthcare system resulted in theft. It's just a different form of theft. It's not like they came into the house at gunpoint and, what is it called, home invasion, and robbed him that way. No, what they did is they took out his body and destroyed his mind and then robbed him that way. And left what they didn't want behind. Because ultimately they just wanted to rob him of his money. I have no control of that. And through it all, my landlords have been there for me. And I reassure them that I'm still fighting for Uncle John in court, even though it doesn't look like it. And that I also tell them that I'm helpless to change my life. Like, I'm desperately trying soul search how I can not even change it, but fix it. Because my life is broken. Completely broken, people. And I'm trying to, I wouldn't say fix my children's lives, but I'm trying to smooth over the turmoil that all this other bullshit that I have no control of has created in their lives, and they are expected from that bullshit pile over there for my kids to carry that trauma that they carry within them because of all these negative influences that affect their lives and just leave them hanging. Hoping that the old okie dokie, if you stress them out enough, right, you know, chances are they'll have a nervous breakdown. They'll resort to substances, whether it's alcohol or illegal substances in terms of drugs, and that to mask their pain. And once they get into that mode, then it's easy just to toss them off to the side because the weather will take care of them after that, right? In terms of, you know, freeze enough times, be cold enough times, be hungry enough time, be scared enough time, you know, be feeling abandoned enough time, be being socially abused enough time. Sooner or later, those people aren't ever going to get up and challenge the real criminals in our society. When it comes to the people who perpetrate that type of action, mental mentality, and social existence between ourselves, right, as a collective society. Even now, I don't feel safe in my house in terms of who is going to be the next person to try and force me out. And I'll give you a small little example, okay? Over on this road over here where the wolf pack was residing, and I wanted to rent that house after they finally got removed to work on the things that I'm working on, right? And the neighbors over there, oh, God forbid, we don't want that, you know, and it got into a big kerfuffle because for some reason, you know, they think they're so much better than everybody else in this freaking neighborhood. And so anyway, left it alone. Okay, no problem. You know, basically ignored them. They ignored us. You know, time passed. You know, let old anxieties go, right? You know, don't hold a grudge. You know, I'm not one to hold grudges, people. So, you know, eventually I got what I wanted. You know, I got my little house, and there's 6 people safe, and you know, one of those people is my daughter, and she's going to bed at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, because I went there on a Sunday night, and she's telling me to shut up and be quiet at 10 o'clock because I was just disturbing her falling asleep. So as a mother, I feel pretty damn good about that because my daughter was safe, she was warm, and she wasn't alone. And she wasn't hungry, and she wasn't scared. Right? Something that these people over there didn't want. They didn't care if my daughter died on the street. Okay, whatever. I let it go, you know. Well, not every now and then, like constantly. Constantly, they're always throwing something. It's like a permanent fucking junk pile, right? Right there in their front yard, off to the side. And I think what they do is they buy abandoned storage units. You know how you auction, they get auctioned off. I think they go to auctions and they auction because they have random things that don't make any sense outside of, it's just a few things left that they didn't want to do whatever. They probably have like a little online shop, and who knows, maybe they even have a little thrift store or something. They've got something going on there because there's always something periodically, you know, 2-3 times a month, once a month, whatever. Well, usually about 2 times a month, they have either wood pieces out there, or, you know, they have like knickknacks, just a lot of knickknacks and that type of thing, right? And dishes, odds and ends, and just things, like I said, that don't make sense, right? Outside of, you know, they must be getting it from somewhere else and picking through what they get and then just tossing off the rest to the curb. So eventually what happens is they have this pile of junk that's been sitting there for months. I'm leading up to it, people. And like I said, I have been ignoring them. I haven't been rude, you know. And as a matter of fact, over a couple months ago, the mother with the daughter, cat on a leash, you know, they were out there and they had their stuff that they didn't want. And I said, you don't want, I can say, because it's a take pile, right? You don't just put outside in the curb, right? She said, yeah. And I said, oh, okay, thank you. I thanked them, you know, trying to remove that edge in terms of like, okay, you didn't want people living there that were high risk. I can understand that. Time to move on. And so Andre and I, we go 2 days ago. And this is what I mean. I don't feel safe in my own house, people, because of people like this in the neighborhood. 2 days ago, I go and, because at first I went the night before, because they're junk. I've taken a few pieces of wood and a couple planter pots. I got something for the guys over there for their shed that I just haven't put up yet, right? Some work, like you know, it's like a little board that things clip in that they can put their nuts and bolts in and that type of thing, right? I got it for over there. I just haven't taken it over there yet because I'm not sure what these guys are going to be doing with the shed while they have it. So in the meantime, you know, there's this one white, and they like to paint almost everything white. They use some kind of paint. I don't know what kind of paint it is, but it's pretty good. You can actually wash it off if you use a little bit of elbow grease and let it soak for a while. And but anything, I'd say probably, good 80% of whatever they put out there, it's been spray washed with white paint. So you got to be willing to take it off, right? I can show you what I don't know where it is right now, but I'll bring it back and I'll show you. Anyway, so there's been this white unit out there, right? And it's been sitting out there for like 2-3 months now, and it's been rained on, and nobody's taking it. Nobody wants it. It's been out there for like 2-3 months already. And it's been out there so long that the wood is starting to flake off, and the paint is flaking off, and inside of the shell there's pulling out, and it's like gonna be ready for trash, right? So I thought, I'll just salvage the hardware. I'll salvage the little clips on the door, right? The hardware, and that type of thing, because maybe do something with Andre or whatever, right? So I go out, and when I first started, it was too dark, and I had to stop, and then I went the next day with Andre. And then they were out there. The woman with her husband were out there, and because I had already had conversation with the woman a couple months ago, trying to, break that ice or whatever, whatever, because she, whatever, right? Right? Move on, right? Be happy, I'm not your worst enemy on the planet, I just noticed that you don't want that. No, I don't. Well, then, okay, I think I would, right? And so, based on that, I just continued to take out the hardware. Thinking, because I had already spoken with the woman a month or so prior, and everything seemed okay then, because I myself humbled myself to say thank you for what you're putting out on the road. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, you got nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be afraid of, right? This thing has been sitting out there for 2-3 months. They know that. Why would they want the hinges? Now it's falling apart. The paint flicking, the wood is coming off. It's all starting to warp. Like, who wants that, right? At least you salvage the hinges before it goes into the garbage dump, right? Notice how the city allows that to stay out there, though. It's sitting out there week after week after week after week, and it's right on the curbside, right there, right? That rotten thing with other pieces that he just keeps adding more into, and every now and then I'll take a 2x4 or whatever it is that he doesn't want because I can use it here, because I have absolutely no money, people. I still have to fix my fence. So I got to scrounge around in my yard for some wood to fix my fence. So if he's throwing out a piece of wood that can help to fix my fence, well then of course I'm going to take it, and I'm going to have to humble myself and be a garbage picker. I guess I'm being a garbage picker when I do that, right? So I'm now there at this unit, finishing off what I tried to do the night before in terms of taking out these screws that had been, sprayed on and been sitting there forever, and, you have to struggle with some of them. And he comes by, I'm not even there for like 5-7 minutes, whatever, and he comes by and he stands there and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm taking the hinges. Because this is, no, you're not." I said, "Well, what do you mean I'm not?" "No, you just don't, you can't have those hinges. You can't have that. Nobody's going to want this unit." Well, he didn't say unit, but he said it stays with, what he was implying was if I take off the doors, there's going to be less chance that somebody wants that unit. And what it was those old English ancient hutches with the drawers on the bottom and then that thing that sits on top with the shelves? It was just kind of something like that. It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't even real wood, because like I said, the wood was starting to peel off along with the paint, and it was just getting all warped and shit. And I thought, well, this is going to be going in the garbage real soon, and before it goes I could salvage the hinges, right? And no, you can't have that. You gotta, leave. And he grabs my screwdrivers and he hands them to me. And my grandson is listening to this. My grandson is watching this, people. Okay, these are the people that didn't care if my daughter died out in the street, really. Whether they watch my videos or not, they're the ones that have to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves why they have such a hard-on against the poorest of the poor in the community. "Oh, well, they go into my backyard and they rob us." Well, maybe if they were housed and feeling better and, weren't like being treated like savage animals, then that situation wouldn't occur, because they'd have their own backyards to do their own things in. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So he basically thoroughly 100% insulted me. He did not embarrass me, although he was trying to embarrass me, but he more like insulted me. Right? And, like, if I was to go out there right now, that wall unit is probably still sitting there in the snow, getting more warped. Right? And the last time I checked, that was garbage. You didn't want it. It's been sitting outside there for months. Why the city doesn't ask you to move out your garbage from your front yard, I don't know. But that's none of my business. Because every now and then, sometimes your garbage is pretty cool, and I appreciate that extra piece of wood that I can bring home to my yard. Like I said, I don't hold grudges, but since they want to hold grudges, that I came home, people, this is the end of this story. I came home, people, and all I could think about was, now I'm waiting for the city to show up. Now I'm waiting for the city to show up, because it's pretty fucking apparent that those people have absolutely no liking for my family, including my grandson. Because if you're going to go as far as that in front of a small child, right, what else are you going to do to hurt the family? Because Andre represents a family. So do I. So now I'm waiting for the CD to show up because of them. Because the guy won't be satisfied with just telling me to fuck off. And don't take his hinges off a unit that's been sitting outside in the rain for the last 2 months and a bit, with the paint peeling off and the wood peeling off and it's starting to warp. What else do you think he's going to do? Right? So that's just like one example in terms of feeling insecure in this house. Even though my landlords, they reassure me, you know, like they understand my circumstances and stuff, right? And, you know, they sympathize, right? They don't understand why it happened any more than I understand, right? In terms of, I understand the legal part of it because I'm trying to take it to court, right? But the court is not a real, I don't know what the court is, right? Because even from the get-go with the pro bono, they tried to steer me away from the court because they knew, right? I got the pro bono thing from the lawyer there, and his suggestion was to take Eleanor to court. No. Why should I take Eleanor to court when it was Fraser Health's duty, right, to protect Uncle John from predators? Unless, of course, the corporation itself is a predator and it starts to begin to protect itself. And that's where we're at with the court. And the pro bono tried to steer me away from holding the corporation accountable for their inability to follow the legislation, right, in terms of how they protect people from exactly what happened to Uncle John. That all falls under the Criminal Code of Canada, right? So even though it's in the Supreme Court, which is supposed to represent Canada, it's not acknowledging the Criminal Code of Canada. Do my landlords think that far and that deep into it? No, they don't. Because they're landlords. It's not their business to be worrying about my life, right, per se. But, you know, through it all, they've been gracious, really, in terms of allowing my family to stay here at the rate that we've been paying, right? And are not forcing me out for their own end means in terms of profit, because they could easily sell this house and make a profit, right? They're not obligated to hold the mortgage just so that my family can live, but that's what they're doing. They're not obligated, but they are holding their mortgage just so that my family can live. And for that, they're amazing people, right? Just like this landlord is amazing over there. Well, we've got amazing landlords over here. And I tell them, I thank them all the time. And, you know, I tell my landlady that, you know, it's not that I don't want to. I just don't know how to fix my life. I've got Uncle John's paperwork scattered all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to drop the ball and shred it and throw that money away than it does to keep what I have, photocopy more, and keep pushing the envelope to pay more. Right? So there I am in that limbo zone again, you know? Right? I'm in my sewing room trying to clear out a little bit so that I can be a grandmother to my grandson. Because really, back to the beginning of this video, right? Because it's getting long and we need to come to an end here soon. But, you know, I try and prioritize my life as a YouTuber and as an individual at home. Obviously as an individual at home first, but then as a YouTuber that is trying to help the more humble in the crowd to better themselves. In other words, I was at the house yesterday and I connect with the people one at a time. Sometimes there's more in the room, whatever. Anyway, I connected with one of the women in there And I just, I made inquiries about, what do you call it? Methadone. If she's ever been on methadone, how did it make her feel? What does she think about methadone? And then I used myself as an example because she's got small children, right? And her mother wants her to get better, like the woman that's living in the house. Her mother wants her to get better. And as a matter of fact, her mother has a long history with social services in terms of actually helping people back in the good old days. In other words, take it back 20 years when various types of social workers interacted with individuals or families 20 years ago when, crises would occur for whatever those reasons may be. And they had a different approach back in those days versus to what's been going on these days. In those days, it wasn't so much about money. It wasn't so much about the budget. It wasn't so much about keeping those pension plans in place. In those days, it was actually about job description. Well, this is the mother, right? She's going to help me a little bit with the nonprofit after everything settles down because she's got a whole lot more experience and she's got a whole lot more networking than I do. But outside of that, she herself has a vulnerable daughter just like me, that she loves her daughter just like I love mine, right? That, she wants her daughter to get better and, she envisions this for the children and she envisions this for her granddaughter, like for her daughter and whatnot, and just like me. And so I said to this woman yesterday, I said, look, your kids are going to need you because two youngest are very small. They're very young. 3 and 1. 3 years old and 1 year old, right? And then she has some twins that are, I don't know, 7 or something like that, I think. And then she has one more child that's somewhat older. She has 5 children, right? And she's, I think, 34. Anyway, her mother has the 2 youngest, and she wants her daughter to get better so that the woman can be in her children's lives. So I reminded her yesterday that your kids are going to need you, because I asked her, what about the methadone? Have you done the methadone? And and that type of thing. And I said, because there's some health issues with one of her children. And I said, well, how are you feeling about that? And, I said, I know it's hard to cope sometimes, right? But all you have to really do, and then I kind of just cracked a dry joke. I said, well, it's really hard to cope, and I know what you're going through, to some degree, but you have to learn to cope, and maybe if anything, you can watch some of my videos and you can see how I cope. And then right? Because it's an ongoing process, people, right? You have to learn to cope consecutively, especially when you're under high stress. So I don't know where that was going. That was going somewhere. I got into that coping mode, right? So, whoop. Where did that one go, people? There was a point to that. Now I forgot. Because I got overwhelmed with my own issue of having to cope. And I think this is where, this is the point of this, is I do it obviously on a daily level outside of the camera. I just bring this information to the camera to help the more humble in the crowd to develop coping skills to get you through these rough patches that people find themselves in. Whether it's talking about it like I'm doing now, or when I'm under high stress, I'm in the kitchen with the pressure canner and I'm producing something that at the end of the day I know that can help to sustain my family no matter what happens, which offsets that inability to cope, because you have to keep up with it. That's the thing. And if you watch my videos, I gave her an example, you know, like when the city was riding my ass for that year and a bit, almost a year and a half straight after Uncle John went missing. It was one thing after another. I just rode that storm with the whip on my back, people, and I was out there. I was out there like a dirty shirt, no matter how I felt, so that I wouldn't lose my house. And in the background were my landlords through that process, being threatened, right, for, you know, fines of this and fines of that, just so that somebody else in the neighborhood could capitalize. While these ones, a year and a half later, after the wolf pack moved out, still are harboring a grudge on their shoulders, insulting me in front of my grandson over hinges that more than likely is going to end up in the fucking land dump, right? Like, and I'm not supposed to feel insecure, right? I do. And I'm trying to pick my priorities, you know, telling myself, you know, you're getting old, right? You don't feel well. There's no guarantee that you're going to be in good shape in 5 years from now, especially at this rate. You know, you're completely broke, behind on everything. You know, finding pleasure in a $1.25 meal, like the good old days. Asking yourself why you're here, like, you know what I mean? In terms of what is the mission, right? I tell these people over here, you know, it's just like me. You have to, if you come into conflict over something, you have to, you know, check yourself and ask yourself why you're here, and in terms of in this house compared to all those other people who aren't, because you're there for a reason, right? And I remind them that you guys are here for a reason. So, you know, if you feel like doing this, but you know it's wrong, don't do it, because right now, currently, you're in that house for a reason, and that's to show leadership, right? And so far, everybody's been doing really good. As a matter of fact, the last time I went in there, the energy was pretty good. I could feel people were positive, and they were, you know, starting to do decorations in terms of bringing in furniture as their own decor, right? And so that's good. No fights have been breaking out or nothing, right? And, you know, the level of people have been good. And so, but Andre is really my, when I go deeper into myself and I remove myself from this obligation, and this like Uncle John is like an obligation. I have to follow through on this, people. I have no choice. I am not going to take thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of tears and just rip them up and throw them off in the garbage. No, I'm going to keep the paper that's in the house getting underneath my nerves and keep pushing forward while I put my grandson first. So, as a matter of fact, he's home now. I can hear him coming up the stairs. So, this is just a wee example. You can see what we've been doing here. Right? We're doing planets. There's the plane. And then these. Do you see?